Listen, the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle campaign has been everywhere, right? It's been creating a lot of conversation, a lot of controversy, because it might sound like an ad for denim, but then you hear Sydney's voice, and she says jeans determine hair color and determine personality traits and eye color. And then she says, my jeans are blue. I'm like, yikes. Okay, my name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Quammie's here, Pablo The Don is here, Jackson Weaver's here. Guys, my jeans are not blue. And I'm here to talk to you about this ad and the ways that it has taken over the conversation on the internet. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, so good.
Hi,
I'm wearing my pink jeans. Just in protest.
Okay, I'm glad that you're protesting because someone should be protesting. Jackson, I think maybe we should set up the story real quick here because maybe not everyone's familiar with it. But the before we dig deeper into the story, what should people know about the ad, about the way that it has kind of taken over the internet?
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining it. This is an ad. I mean, no, not backhanded. I genuinely think you did a good job of explaining it. This is
there's
an
nothing more there. Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney is in an ad for American Eagle jeans. They're making a double entendre between jeans as in the jeans you wear and jeans as in those that are passed down from parent to child. You see Sydney Sweeney's legs as she's wearing jeans. It pans up and she explains how, jeans determine eye color, person's physiognomy and like what they look like passed down from parent to child. And then there's a voiceover that says Sydney Sweeney has good genes. So the idea literally is that she has good American Eagle genes, but metaphorically it's that she has good genealogical markers that make her attractive. That has made a few people upset because of a few reasons. One, ideas about the male gaze. She's kind of looking very, sultry, sexy. People say sensual. And are we trying to sell jeans to women or just try to make her attractive to men? Something that people are a little bit mad about. But also, and I think more, controversially, is this propaganda, is this harkening back to Nazi-esque themes, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person saying that they have superior genes, and what actually American Eagle was going for in this ad, and also what is acceptable in this specific political time and space, whether or not this is a dog whistle, whether or not it's propaganda, is what's really gotten people mad. People on, one camp saying this is obvious propaganda, like look back in the past, shouldn't be acceptable. Our Overton window is shifted over to the right. Other people saying you are looking too deep into this. This isn't that deep. There's no propaganda there. You're all going crazy. And that's kind of where this is all fallen.
I mean, look, the jeans just as a staple of the North American wardrobe, they've been, that is not a new thing. There's been a lot of different ways to sell jeans. Very few of them have been a play on the genetic traits. That is sort of like a new kind of territory. And before we sort of get deeper into this, I do think it's worth hearing the ad because American Eagle made several different versions of the ad. And of course, this is the one that went viral. Listen to this.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes. B, what's your reaction to this ad and the debate that is kind of created?
I mean, so many reactions, but I mean, clearly, as Jackson said, like this is a problematic setup, but it's indicative of like the times that we're in right now. And just thinking about like this singular representation of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman who's talking about genes, hinting at eugenics, like if the ad maybe focused on and featured different people, different body types, talking about genes, maybe it would still have some critique, but it would have landed quite differently than just having this one visual representation of who has good genes. And I think that in some of the conversations that I've been having around it, there are a lot of people who feel like, not that they're the camp of this isn't a big deal, but the camp of this is outrage marketing. And we are just giving American Eagle more attention, more energy by focusing on this. So we should just do away with the conversation entirely. And one thing that clearly is lacking on social media, but is necessary in conversation, is nuance and balance. And I think that there's a point there, but we also can't turn our eye away from like the insidious things that are happening right in our faces, the things that have been given permission to be put on this type of global stage, we need to pay attention to those things, because we've got to learn from things in the past that have happened and that we're seeing repeated now, and thinking about where is this actually taking us. So I think it needs a little bit of nuance.
Pablo, I want to get to you in just a moment to talk about like the ways that this has sort of been politically divided in terms of the reactions to this ad. But maybe, Jackson, I could ask you, like I take B's point that, this would hit differently if it was Zendaya doing this ad, right? And they were like, Zendaya has great genes. Obviously she does. But there is something to be said about the fact that like to debut this with Sydney Sweeney is a certain kind of signaling, right? Is it, or at least could be read as a certain kind of signaling. Are you surprised at all that it's created this level of debate?
I don't think maybe that it is almost pushed out, like the Epstein controversy. It's gotten huge to that point. Is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But that it has become a flashpoint, I don't necessarily think is that strange. And the issue, I think the topical discussion that's going on is, was A&E consciously trying to send some very atavistic, dangerous historical messaging? Is this propaganda? What was their intent behind it? Was this an accident? Was this on purpose? Are we making too much of this because it's just making connections that aren't there? It isn't too deep. But I think the reason that it has become such a debate, and why it's not necessarily super surprising, is it's just like a proxy for another argument. This is in place of people arguing and seeing whether or not the cultural temperature or the way that we talk about things and the way that we remove things and brand things as evil and bad, whether that kind of political cudgel is in this group's hands or that group's hands. So you'll have commentators on the left being like, this is horrible, terrible, let's all say this is bad. Commentators on the right saying there's nothing there, we shouldn't get so mad about this, everyone's freaking out. And then whichever side gets to win in this ad kind of proves we're in control of the conversation and we're in control of saying what is okay and what is not okay. And I think that's why this ad has become such a big thing. Not even necessarily whether or not American Eagle knew what they were doing, because like regardless of whether they knew what they were doing, those connections are kind of obvious, so you can like kind of fault them for that. But this is more just who is in control of what gets to be allowed and not.
Well, I was going to say, like, to me, like one of the most important books written in this century is this book called Thinking Fast and Slow by this thinker, Daniel Kahneman. Because what Daniel Kahneman does so well is sort of divide this idea of like, sometimes you have a reaction and you go, I'm going to go away and think about that. And sometimes you have a reaction that is just meant to hit you at a certain level and activate those thoughts without necessarily you being in control of that. And this ad to me is kind of a perfect example of, it's not about you going away and be like, let me think about what this ad is trying to say. It's about that initial reaction, Pablo. There's something sort of instantaneous about the way that you react to it. And I should say the reactions have largely fallen along political lines. In terms of like, if you're on the right or if you're on the left, you react differently to this ad. What are some of those examples of the reactions that you're seeing, Pablo?
I mean, I think the biggest one might be Senator Ted Cruz actually coming out and speaking on this and saying like the crazy woke left is trying to convince you that you can't have they're looking too deep into it. And I think on the left, there's been a lot of just like online chatter about the eugenics piece of this, the racism, like did American Eagle intend for this? I think a big thing a lot of people have overlooked in this entire thing is the culture war that it seems to be American Eagle could be trying to profit off of, whether or not they're selling jeans. I think they've taken, like a lot of other brands have, they've seen that branding things with MAGA, branding things with people who are aligned with MAGA makes money. I mean, those Trump sneakers might be ugly, but they sold in the millions. So I think they're looking at this. And even as I'm gleaming over social media and seeing what people are saying, so many people are saying, I'm buying the jeans now just because the woke left is just going insane and I can't let them have this win. And it's like, it's hard to divorce that American Eagle didn't do that on purpose, because look at the profit that they're now turning and making. They're saying the jeans are now sold out, which, first of all, I've got a gripe about that because the jeans on Sydney Sweeney didn't even fit. So how are they like the best jeans? How does she have perfect jeans if they didn't even tailor them correctly? That was like a simple layup that they missed. So I've got like... It's been interesting to see people talk about this, but at the same time, I think it is American Eagle brands taking notice of being able to profit off of the culture war that's been incited through politics and this divisive nature of anything that looks like it could lean too far one way or the other. And nobody is trying to play the middle. Everyone's going one way or the other. And I think American Eagle just said, we're going to go all the way to the right, because Sydney Sweeney already has this culture around her that associates her with the right, just because she went to her mom's MAGA themed birthday party. So I think they're really leaning in. And that is the other thing I've seen people saying a lot, is that Sydney Sweeney has done so many campaigns over this year. What's going on with her personally? Is she not making enough money? She's a good actress. Hey Dude, Laneige, American Eagle, and Dr. Squatch have all used her as a talking point, as this personality branded moment. But I think in general, it's a reflection of society and where we're putting our emphasis on. Just in general, like we are so political in nature right now that this was going to be a huge moment just because of the words that came out of her mouth.
Not to excuse Sydney Sweeney's great genes or anything, but I do think that like she's actually kind of talked openly about the idea that like in Hollywood, a lot of people are nepo babies and they inherit sort of, quite a bit of wealth and quite a bit of access. And she's like, I am new to this. This could go away tomorrow. That's why I keep doing all of these ads. So like I think like she's kind of outpaced a lot of her compatriots and like her peers in terms of the number of ads that she's done. Having said that, that doesn't mean you do every single ad, or maybe you go, hey, I have some questions about the copy of this ad. I think like if you're Sydney Sweeney and maybe you don't want to address the idea that like your parent maybe has some conservative leanings or not, but you want to maybe directly address the controversy this has caused, would you expect someone at the stature of Sydney Sweeney to actually say, you know what, I'm creating a lot of conversation, maybe I should weigh in here somewhere?
I don't know if I would have really expected a direct response from her, but I think what's important to note, and I think Pablo brought this up with the jeans, like she's not just a face in this campaign. She co-designed these Sydney jeans. They very specifically have like a butterfly motif on the back pocket that is a representation of domestic violence awareness. She's very passionate about that. And the proceeds from the sales of these jeans go to Crisis Text Line, which provides like free mental health support for anybody via text. So I don't expect much from people in terms of, trying to guess what their morals are and seeing if she would speak out on that framework. But in a business sense, like you have these other entities now tied into this partnership, and that might be negatively affected by the reactions and the controversy that's coming out. And you are now being kind of set up as like a political pawn. The White House comms leader is like tweeting in support of this. Like this could be a very slippery slope for Sydney in a business sense. So I think from a business sense, whether she comes out and says something directly, whether her and her team figure out some type of like counter messaging to divert the conversation a different way and put her back in a more positive light, something like that may happen. But I would look at it more from a business sense than trying to predict anything about like her moral feelings on it.
To that point, Jackson, the idea of Sydney Sweeney, Ted Cruz coming to her defense, the White House coming to her defense, do you see it as in her interest to respond and say, I'm not entirely with that camp and I don't need their defense and I'm not interested in that? Or do you kind of go, you know what, I understand why she would want to remain silent in the middle of all this?
Initially my take is she's not going to say a single thing about this. Now that I've seen how gigantic it's gotten, like maybe she might address it. But really, if we're just talking about like pure pragmatic business sense, not thinking about ethicality, morality, whatever, I don't think it's in her best interest to address it at all, especially given the political atmosphere and the business atmosphere and the way that you see so many businesses marching in lockstep a little bit over towards the right to make sure. I mean, we don't have as many Pride advertisers this year, did we? I mean, for a very understandable reason. I think that as well, if she addresses it, then she becomes a celebrity whose personal opinion and political view becomes a part of her brand, which is a whole other market she has to open up, a whole other market she has to manage. And specifically, it will be seen, regardless of what her political beliefs and affiliations are right now, as like a flip-flopper. So like right now, she may be against her will, she might not have meant this at all, but she is now a little bit of a mascot for people on the right. If she then says, I don't like you guys, I'm not part of the right, then she becomes a fulcrum, a political fulcrum of a conversation that people on the right are now going to say like, oh, you flip-flop, you threw away your morals. We just saw another influencer, Joey Swoll. He's this online commentator. He was defending Hulk Hogan, and then he came out and said, "I'm so sorry for defending Hulk Hogan." So he upset people both on the left and the right, and now he's just gone. That's what could happen to her. And I think that if you look back to Brooke Shields, she had a very famous ad where she was in jeans, and she said, "Nothing comes between me and my jeans," insinuating that she's not wearing any underwear. She was like 15. She didn't speak publicly about it on purpose on her own until years later. But she did do a Barbara Walters interview like the year later where she was asked about it, and then she kind of responded to it. That's probably what's going to happen with Sydney Sweeney. She's going to do an interview for some sort of movie, and she's going to kind of dance around it. I don't see, though, like a public apology coming out because of how damaging that could be to her brand.
I'll tell you this. I don't think she's going to respond at all. I think Sydney Sweeney is going to cash that check and go, okay, what's the next project? My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion, and we are talking about the biggest stories of this week. I'd like to move on to an interesting trend, Pablo. Both the New York Times and Hollywood Reporter just published these pieces about a shift that they're noticing, a shift in the ways that stars are talking publicly about the cosmetic work that they've had done to their bodies, or the way that Photoshop has been used in their careers. What are these trend pieces pointing to? Like, what are the things that they're sort of trying to draw out here?
I think they're really pointing to the accessibility of plastic surgery, in my opinion. I think that now that you, me, anyone with a credit card can go to God knows whatever country and get whatever work done, celebrities have to be more honest about it. Because before, like I remember when Kim Kardashian and everyone thought that, now we know it was a BBL, but we thought it was butt implants simply because we had no idea what a BBL was. It was something that was only accessible to the top 1% of wealth. But now that these surgeries and these modifications have become so incredibly accessible, you cannot lie, because I've likely been through the same process and I know exactly what it looks like to heal. I know exactly what it looks like when it's finished. You can't lie about it. So I think that piece of transparency is simply coming from the fact that other people, normal people, everyday people with 9-to-5s are now getting it, and we can clock it.
I do think it's worth actually like pointing out how far we've come in terms of like this regard, because it's not like we were there even 10, 15 years ago. And so I want to play this clip, and it's Michael Jackson talking to Martin Bashir from the 2003 documentary Living with Michael Jackson.
You told me in Las Vegas your father used to talk about your nose. Yeah. So I can understand why you wanted to change your appearance. Yeah. It makes sense.
Just that, though, not the whole face. It's just the nose, you know?
Even though the shape of the face is different.
Because I've changed.
How have you changed?
I was a little kid.
I'm talking about pictures of you in your 20s.
No, I was changing. I'm telling you the honest truth. I don't do anything to my face.
Honestly.
B, listen to that now. What's your reaction?
Oh, it just seems so like banal now, and just like such a waste of energy on a topic. And I kind of just wonder, what was Martin Bashir's tactic had Michael been like, yep, I've had every procedure you can think of and then some. Like, then where does the conversation go? And is that even interesting, necessary? Like, what does it drive forward? And I mean, in 2003, who knows where it may have driven it, because the conversation then, as we were saying now, is very different to the way it is now. So it just wouldn't play out the same now. But so listening to that, I was just like, man, like, okay, we need to move on from this topic, because it's not doing anything. It
really feels like we've sort of like moved to a different place. Also, Pablo, I want to note the fact that like reading the New York Times, reading Hollywood Reporter on this, like, you can't help but see that like we're talking largely about white celebrities here, because I do think that the black stars have been very straightforward about the work that they've had done. Cardi B's been out here for a minute, you know what I mean? Like talking about just being like, yes, this happened, yes, this happened, yes, this happened, yes, this happened. I do think like there's something different about the level of conversation when it comes to how we think about them with black celebrities versus white celebrities. How do you see that playing into it in terms of now we're being honest? I'm like, I think we've been honest for a little while in terms of some people.
I think people who think that celebrities haven't been honest just don't engage with enough black celebrities, because it's always been normalized. I think Michael Jackson might have been the only person, and maybe Little Kim, where it was like maybe people danced around it a little bit, but I think they danced around it a little bit because a lot of their modifications came from trauma, came from being in abusive relationships, being in abusive households, and wanting to change themselves. But I think when it comes to Cardi B or Nene Leakes or Wendy Williams, it's just not a big deal. Yeah, I got the money now to get this done. I didn't like it about myself. I'm going to go change it. You can hate it, you can love it, but I like it. And so therefore I'm going to wear it loudly and proudly. There's nothing to hide about it. And I think also a big part of this is that a lot of the modifications that we see these white celebrities, specifically the Kardashians, get is to be modeled after Black women's bodies. So yeah, you might want to hide that. You might not want to admit, like, yeah, I secretly would like to look like a Black woman and have the features that Black women have naturally. And I don't want to tell you guys that, because then it might start a culture shift and you might think that Black people should have a bigger say in the power dynamic. I can't do that, though. I need to keep my wealth and my power over here with me. So I think that's what has convinced them to hide it. Whereas Black people are like, yeah, I did do this. I got the money. I want to change this and I'm going to do it. And you can't say anything to me about it.
I do believe that archaeologists discovered on the side of the pyramid the words, got a bag and fixed my teeth. So we've been out here again for a minute. It is not at all a new thing. Okay, I'd like to go into our last thing that I want to talk about, which is an album that came out a week ago that is still the topic of conversation. Have a listen to this.
When I get to snapping like doo-wop, really got the juice like Tupac. Shorty got a strong jaw, might chew. Got me coming out the blue like new cop. I've been rocking by myself, I'm through. You jump off the porch, me, I flew. Say I'm too sick, I chew. Stop playing with me.
Stop playing with me. That is Tyler, the Creator, the new album, Don't Tap the Glass. Listen, we've been meaning to talk about this album for a minute. We're going to go just real quick around the table here. Pablo, top to bottom, how are you feeling about this record?
Man, this record is great. Like, I think Tyler really honing in on this. Do not overanalyze this thing. This is meant to get you out of your house. This is meant for you to dance. Yeah. I'm really not making sense on any of the lyrics. I'm really just out here trying to get everyone out of their seat. It's been so refreshing and fun, especially going into the heat of summer. It dropped right before my birthday. So it was like the soundtrack to like my birthday, and just I'm not thinking about anything other than the beat and having a good time and looking at LeBron James in a music video. Like, that was those are the things for me.
I will say, like Tyler's been in his head for a minute, so it's kind of like interesting to hear him in a place where he's like, hey, can we just have fun for a moment? What's your reaction to the record?
Oh, 100%. Like, it's such an interesting contrast to the Chromacopia album in terms of like the self-reflection and the depth that he had on that. And I love that album as well. But this is like, he gives us the instructions from the top. He's like, listen, you're going to dance, body movement. You're not going to overanalyze none of the deep stuff. That's not what we're here for. And I followed the instructions all the way through. So I'm good. I love it.
Jackson, I will say that, like, you know, after a couple of records of him being like, I would like to think about monogamy. Is it serving us as a culture? And then now he's like, woof, we're just here to dance. Please forget about everything else. He has also been a polarizing artist for some people, right? Like, he's had a history of homophobia, of misogyny, a bunch of other troubling themes. And then you get this record, right? Like, this idea of like, hey, he's in a different place. He's evolved. Our relationship with him should change. Do you hear this album go like, yeah, Tyler's evolved enough. I think we can leave that stuff in the past?
I mean, I think it really depends on your relationship with Tyler, the Creator, and your ideals and opinions on, like, because he said like very like so many slurs against gay people, but also he's kind of danced around whether or not he himself is gay.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have artists like Tegan and Sarah wrote this whole essay about how they're not going to vibe with him regardless of what he does. His new album, I don't think it's not like a maturation of those ideas. He's just, like you said, not talking about, or he's ostensibly not talking about anything deep. He's just making a dance track. Like in the first song, there's a line like, leave your baggage at home, none of that deep stuff. But I think there's more there. And this album's, I think, more about like ostensibly the idea of, you know, performing in public and not wanting to be your true self because you're afraid of getting recorded. So there's stuff to analyze there. Musically, very impressive. He has this crazy like My Humps reference in the second song that I think is so well done, and that's really mature. I don't think his nihilism has really gone. No. He's just not really talking about that so much. So like maturation as a musician, I don't know necessarily if his opinions have changed at all.
Pablo, 30 seconds to you. Does it matter? Do we need him to evolve, or is that not Tyler's job?
No, I think you do need your artists to evolve. That's the beauty in watching these long storied careers. That's the beauty in seeing Beyonce go from releasing her debut record to releasing something as cool and innovative and like introspective as Cowboy Carter. Yeah. They have to evolve, and I think it's fun to watch them grow and grow with them as a person.
But they don't have to do that, I guess, on every single record, and maybe they can take a bit of a breather.
Every once in a while, we just got to shake it out. Every once in a while, we just got to dance. Just do a little vibe and move.
Yeah, it's like we'll do some growing on the next record. Okay. In the meantime, I appreciate your time and your energy. You guys are the best. Thank you for being here. Thanks again.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
So much.
Yes, of course. Pablo The Don is a culture critic and part of those Wrestling Girls podcasts. They were in Springfield, Massachusetts. Quammie is a writer and culture critic in Toronto. She's also the author of the Book of Possibilities, Words of Wisdom on the Road to Becoming. Jackson Weaver is a senior writer at CBC Entertainment, also in Toronto. And also that album, Tyler, the Creator's new album, is called Don't Tap the Glass, and it is out now. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Listen, I got to tell you that I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks. Some pals are going to be filling in, so please come and hang out. I will return in the middle of August. I'm going to be going to PEI. If you're in PEI, can we hang out? Like, can you just send me a message and be like, hey man, I'm in PEI, we should hang out. In the meantime, my name is Elamin. This is Commotion. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great day.